Hi everyone, it's Katie, and I am here today to share with you the decks from the recent haul that I've spoken briefly about that I've chosen to keep. Basically, the woman that I bought the Nigel Jackson and the Sacred Rose and the Tarot of the Spirit and a number of other decks from a couple of weeks ago. She and I got quite friendly, and I've visited her a couple of times and we've traded a couple of other decks. And basically she just had a whole bunch of other decks that she hadn't yet sold or traded, and was pretty much just ready to move them on. So I offered her what I could, which to be honest wasn't anywhere near what all of the decks were worth, but it was what I could afford and what I thought was at least closest to fair as I could get, I guess. Now there are quite a number of them, as you can see, so I'm feeling a little overwhelmed. So I tried to be relatively selective. However, I also didn't want to be, preemptively giving away decks that might speak to me and, are ones that I probably wouldn't have bought for myself had they not been so affordable for me and accessible. So some of these decks I'm not 100% sure about, but they intrigued me enough for me to keep them and give them a chance to spend some time with them and see how I get along with them. It's a rather interesting sort of array of different types of decks, so I really hope you enjoy a bit of a preview of some different decks that I've been very lucky to acquire recently. So this first one I'm actually really quite excited about. It's the Animals Divine by Lisa Hunt. This is the backing. It's really quite beautiful. Now I did also get, if you watched the previous video about the other decks that I got in this haul, I did also get her Celtic Dragon Tarot, but that one just didn't appeal to me anywhere near as much as this one does. And it is really very beautiful. So the major arcana are different gods and goddesses, and they're just absolutely stunning. And the minors are, as you would expect, all animals. And they have what animal they are up the top, which is nice. I actually struggle with this card just because I've had a bad experience with ibises. So that is the Six of Swords is interesting for me. But the colours in this are just stunning. And the guidebook for this one also looks really interesting. It's a good couple of 100 pages long, and each of the cards has several pages of information. So obviously these are quite new to me and I haven't had an opportunity to read through it, but it certainly looks very interesting and I am looking forward to getting around to it eventually. This next one is a fun one. It's the Mystic Meg Tarot, and this artwork is done by the same person who did the Runic Tarot and the Moon Tarot, which the Moon Oracle, I beg your pardon, which is a deck I would love to own, but most of them are out of print. This is the backing. I think it's quite pretty actually. I actually find the book quite interesting. It does delve into the different aspects, such as relationships and luck and work. So although that's not how I read tarot for myself, it is obviously something that you get asked a lot as a reader. So I thought it would be interesting to have a bit of a look through this book and how it discusses each card in relation to those specific aspects of life. This artwork actually does quite appeal to me. I think it's actually quite interesting and I like the colours. Here's a look. The minor arcana are very much pips though, which isn't my favourite, but I am interested mostly in the book, just to kind of have a bit of a different perspective. It just looks like a fun, simple, easy sort of book to match an interesting deck. The next is a very interesting deck that has been somewhat popular over late, perhaps not massively popular, but definitely something that has come to the attention of quite a number of skilled tarot readers. And it is quite a deep deck. There's a lot of symbolism in this, and I do have this book to go along with it, which is probably about 200 pages or so. However, I know that there's quite a number of other books that you can get to go along with this deck, and they are all written by Rachel Pollack. So I think this deck could be a study in and of itself. I like this artwork. I wouldn't say that I love it, but the more that I look at it, the more that it grows on me. I'm not sure I'm going to be working with this immediately, but as I said, the more I look at it, the more it grows on me, the more I do really feel myself drawn to it. So perhaps sometime in the near future, me and this deck will get to know each other. It does have keywords at the bottom, but I don't think that makes it a beginner deck at all. I think it is a very complicated, complex, meaningful deck. This next one is an oracle deck that I'm really quite excited about. It's the Wisdom of the Australian Animals, and as you can see, and is quite obvious by the title, these are all Australian native animals, and we have the name of the animal along with the more specific title of the animal, as well as some keywords around the outside. There's also a rune associated with each of these cards. I really quite like the colours, and you know, any opportunity to work with more specifically Australian decks is always exciting to me. And there aren't a whole lot of Australian specific decks, and quite a number of the ones that do exist are out of print, which I think this one is actually as well. And I really like this one. It's really simple, but it is really quite beautiful in its own way. It's just understated. And of course, I love all of the animals, and that they are Australian is just really special to me. Just FYI, cassowaries are terrifying. Oh, and I almost forgot, this is the backing. Very simple, but quite pretty. This next deck is one that a lot of people have and that a lot of people love. It's the Faeries Oracle by Brian Froud. This is one I've been meaning to get for some time, and it actually was on sale at my local, well, one of the local kind of new agey bookshops, and I just didn't have the cash at the time. But what do you know, I ended up coming into the possession of it in my own way. It is very interesting, and I really like the artwork a lot more in person than I did online. I mean, I appreciated the artwork online, of course, but I just kind of feel myself sinking into them in person in a way that I didn't quite do so online through video or images. This is the first of a number of Kabbalah themed decks that came in this lot. I'm keeping most of them. I think I kept all of the Kabbalah themed decks because it is something that I want to get more learned in. It's a topic I'm interested in. I have no idea which of these decks will speak to me most, but knowing that this is something I'm interested in, I thought I'd keep all of them and see how they compare, and you know, perhaps all of them will be great, perhaps none of them will. I'll just have to see. It looks very interesting. These are a lot of archangels. I haven't put this one back in order yet, actually. But they do have the name of the angel at the top and a keyword or a title at the bottom as well. And the artwork is quite pretty. It's a much smaller deck than perhaps we're used to. It kind of feels like playing card size, but I actually really like that. I like having a variety of sizes in my decks. This is another Kabbalah themed deck, and it comes with this large kind of poster size image of the Tree of Life, and the cards are actually really quite pretty. They're very different from the previous deck that I showed you. I'm quite drawn to this artwork, in fact. And this one actually has the Sephiroths, and not just focusing on the angels that are associated with the Tree of Life, but the Hebrew letters and such as well. So this will be an interesting one to kind of sink into and see where it takes me. Some of the artwork is really gorgeous. Check out that owl. That's actually on the front of the box, that one. And as you'll see, most of the decks that I got do come with guidebooks, whether they be smaller ones like this one. It's still about 100 pages almost. I think there's only one that I kept that doesn't come with a guidebook. I really enjoy guidebooks. Even though I do like to read intuitively, I like to get to know a deck in as many ways as I can, and I find the guidebook really helpful in that process. Here we have another animal deck, the Animal Messages. This is the backing. Not the prettiest of backings. It seems kind of cluttered and kind of stuck together. This one is lovely in that it's borderless, and the images are very bold and clear. They each have a title and then a little bit of information about the meaning or the message of the animal depicted. I'm not so sure how drawn I am to this. I don't have a lot of animal decks, hence my keeping it. And I do want to work with it, although I don't feel immediately connected to it. So I'm sure, you know, I've kept quite a number of decks, and that's because I didn't want to just get rid of the decks that I wasn't sure about. I wanted to experience them. So I only traded the decks that I really was quite certain weren't for me. This deck, I'm not certain, so I wanted to keep, at least for now, spend some time with it and see how I go. This is a deck I've been wanting on and off for a long time. It's the Goddess Tarot. This is the backing. I haven't put this one back in order either. It's really quite pretty, and obviously I love working with the goddess. It's a very important part of my personal practice as a pagan and a spiritual person. So this deck seems quite appropriate. However, the cardstock is awful. It's almost like sticky. The cards like stick together. I'm hoping that will wear off with time, because it almost feels not completely unusable, but not enjoyable to use. So I am really hoping that that wears off with use and with time, because I think this could be a really beautiful deck. Or it is a very beautiful deck, but it could be a very beautiful deck to use. I love the variety of goddesses that are used, and I love that their ethnicity is kept true. So the artwork does look very cohesive, but the deck doesn't feel whitewashed. This is an Australian-based deck card, which is always really exciting to see. The book is quite extensive as well. It's a couple of 100 pages again. And I have heard that the goddesses are very well matched to the cards that they're placed on, and that the stories really go quite well. So I am excited about getting into this one sooner or later. Now this is the only deck that I got which does not come with a specific companion book. However, the little white book, as you can see, is actually really quite chunky. So although it doesn't have a guidebook, the little white book seems quite sufficient. This is a deck that I'm not completely sold on. It's one of the ones that I kept because I wasn't certain. I do think it's really, really pretty. Obviously, I don't feel particularly connected to the Native American tradition, so that's going to be a learning curve. And as to whether I do connect with this deck, I think will have a lot to do with how I connect to its interpretation of that tradition. So it's just a wait and see, because I do really think this is a very beautiful deck, and that is why I chose to keep it. The artwork itself appealed to me. I'm just not sure how I'll go with a tradition that is very, very unfamiliar and foreign to me. Now this deck, I don't mean to be rude to anyone who does love this deck, But me personally, I don't like this artwork at all. It doesn't appeal to me, it doesn't speak to me in any way. But the reason I decided to keep this is because I had a flick through the book, and it's huge and it looks really interesting. It's about 300 pages long, and you know, the little flick through that I had, it had me wanting to read it. So I've decided to keep this deck set because I want to work with the book. Whether that turns into me working with the deck as well remains to be seen. But it's the book that has kept me, what has made me keep this deck for now. This is an Oracle card deck. It's the Angel Blessings. This is a deck, backing doesn't do all that much for me, but I don't know. There's just something about the artwork that drew me in with this deck. So again, I'm not sure if this will be one that stays in my collection. But for now, it just didn't feel right to move it on. And angels are something that I've been drawn to more and more in my practice during different times. So perhaps this might be an interesting way to get to know some of the angels a little bit better. And as I said, I think this artwork is really quite beautiful. It just appealed to me on a level I couldn't quite explain. So it felt right for it to stay with me, at least for now. And last but not least is the Intuitive Tarot, which is a deck that actually really does appeal to me. I don't love the artwork, and yet it speaks to me. It just draws you in, and I think this circular border is really quite skillfully used. It really does just pull me in. I did put these in order, but then I dropped the deck just before I started filming. And the colours are really well done, and there's a sense of airy, astral type energy. I'm not sure, it's really interesting. So this is one that I'm actually really looking forward to using. And again, the guidebook is really quite chunky and well laid out. From what I can see, it's about 220 pages. This is one that just really, I think, draws me in, is how I would most describe my feelings about this deck at the moment. I just think it's gorgeous, except I don't. I don't know how to explain that. If I wasn't having that emotional, visceral reaction to the deck, I don't think this would appeal to me at all. And yet it is that reaction to the deck that makes it beautiful, that makes me want to work with it. Not that I'm saying it's ugly, I do think it's appealing in its own way. It's just not artwork that generally appeals to me, although I do love this. I'm not sure. I'm not quite sure what it is about this deck. I can't quite put my finger on it. I just feel when I look at it, and I know that I want to work with it. So that's it, guys. Those are all of the decks that I've decided to keep from my recent acquisition. As always, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Do you have any of these decks, and what do you think about them? Or would you like to see a review or me talk about any of these decks in the future? So that's it from me today. Thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you all again very soon. So much love, guys. Bye.